The biggest question every entrepreneur, landlord, and guru wants to know is this. How are landlords and entrepreneurs like us increasing our rent up to £42,155 a year above the market rent from a single property? Now that replaces the average salary, whether we're the owner of the property or we're just the tenant. You're listening to Ryan OTTO, and this podcast will give you all the answers. Welcome to the perfect property deal. Hi everyone, Ryan here, just giving you guys a heads up before this episode starts. This episode was taken from a training program, a training course that I held with landlords, entrepreneurs, business people, service accommodation providers, just like yourself that's listening to this podcast or this episode right now. Now in this episode, we go deep into how you can use the media, take advantage of the media, leverage the media for your success, how you can build and source and find properties based on understanding how the media works in your local area and leveraging that all the way to the bank. I hope you get some value from this episode. I would love to hear your thoughts. This is the first part of a two-part series in this podcast of using the media to your advantage. The biggest question every entrepreneur, landlord, and guru wants to know is this. How are landlords and entrepreneurs like us increasing our rent up to £42,155 a year above the market rent from a single property? Now that replaces the average salary, whether we're the owner of the property or we're just the tenant. You're listening to Ryan OTTO, and this podcast will give you all the answers. Welcome to the perfect property deal. In this training, we will be covering a persuasive story in the press for unlimited leverage. I found an advert on the internet for an overpriced apartment in a city centre. Really, the apartment was worth £1,495 per month. But this apartment was overpriced, just under £1,800 a month. Now, it was one of those landlords who's got plenty of money, plenty of properties, and literally decides what he wants to let the property for to force the ceiling rent up. Now, that will attract the right person from out of the city, probably a Londoner that will be happy to commute, but the locals wouldn't really pay £1,800 a month for this particular flat. Now, these landlords, they literally wait for somebody to fall in love with their place, their property, and they don't even negotiate. They don't even budge because they don't need to. Now, I nearly missed this advert because it had been available for that long, a few weeks only, which is a long time in this particular city, as most things let within a few days, especially in the summer. So I contacted the landlord. Now, we exchanged a few emails. He told me he wouldn't move on the price, and it was on with a letting agent, one of those impossible agents to work with or do any deals with like this. Do you know what I mean? So we set up a viewing for the weekend because he was out of the country until the following Friday. Now, as it happens, I was taking my daughter Isabella shopping again. Taking her shopping in the city on the Friday. We parked the car really close to the property on that particular day because I wanted to look at the building because I was excited about this particular deal because it really was a special one to me. Now, I told my daughter all about this deal. I showed her the building. I said, wouldn't it be great if Daddy had the penthouse here and, in the building, and we could do this and we could do that, and you can have your birthday here and overlooking the city. How cool would that be? We were both excited. Now, while we were shopping, I received a call from the owner just out of the blue. He said he's at the flat now. He's doing some viewings. Would I like to come along? Of course, I said. And I told my daughter, we're taking a little detour from the shopping just to go to a little meeting. I had some business to deal with. I convinced her to leave the shops, come with me with all of her bags. She only agreed because it was that particular apartment that I'd been telling her about all day and for the last few days. So we met the owner together. I explained that we were shopping. I introduced Isabella and I told him all about my daughter and we all chatted for a while. So I told the owner I'll get an offer over to him later that day because I'd like to propose working together on this particular deal because it would really suit my portfolio in this city because it's high end. Now he reminded me it's non-negotiable on the price as he's got a banker, he said, waiting to rent the place. Now when I sent him my offer, in the footer of the email, there are several links to an external website. Now these sites in the footer of my email are the largest newspaper in that particular city. And the links were all named in a particular way that I knew would cause curiosity for whoever is on the end of receiving my emails and my offers. So the owner read my proposal and we arranged to meet the next day, Saturday morning, for breakfast outside the property and discuss the deal. Now at the end of the meeting, after we spent at least 2 hours talking about various things and negotiating over the high price he said he wouldn't move on, which went on for at least another week later, negotiating on the price. Now he told me he's very, very particular about who he decides to do business with. But he done some research on my company and he said there was so much press coverage about the company in the media, he's really impressed, and that was the deal breaker for him to choose me over the banker. That was an easy bet, and the banker was also paying 12 months rent in advance. Now you're about to learn the exact how of all of those stories that appeared in the press as news about one of my companies were all written by me and a journalist. Now the journalist works for me. She also works for a national newspaper as a journalist, which would have cost me thousands and thousands of pounds to have a PR agency just to achieve the same or a similar result. Thousands. So when a potential client uses the internet to find more about who they're considering to do business with, one of the most effective ways to persuade them into working with you is to be able to demonstrate that you can deliver what they need, remove any barriers, and increase their confidence, right? So that can be achieved online by spending thousands and thousands, even hundreds of thousands of pounds on PR to have a high-end media agency feature you or your company in the newspaper as an expert in your field or on numerous mentions in the newspaper, right? Now the only problem with that is it costs you thousands and thousands of pounds to achieve and takes a very long time to build up and there's no guarantees. You also need to have the connections or invest the time and build and nurture those connections, right? So if you're expanding into a brand new city, it's likely that you don't have these connections from the start. Now, by having an anchor story in the press, it puts you in the position of power when the landlords contact you. Because they have already said yes. And you just need to deal with the formalities. A little playful negotiation and everybody's happy. There's no selling when you do it using this method. It's just a matter of business. So they need something and you want something. And you all just agree so everybody gets what they want, right? Now usually it's just don't upset the neighbors. Just Don't have any wild parties, and if there's ever a problem, just let us know and let's work it out together. Now you're probably thinking, getting a news story published in the biggest newspaper in that city about your company sounds complex and expensive, and can I achieve this? In fact, it's very, very simple. You can read a book that goes into great detail by a mentor of mine that helped me achieve exactly that and many more entries in the press. His book is called Ryan Holiday. He's the author of Trust Me, I'm Lying, Confessions of a Media Manipulator. Now you can get the book on Amazon by searching that title. Let me share the bio of the book. This is in Ryan's own words. You've seen it all before. A malicious online rumor. It costs the company millions. A political sideshow derails the national news cycle and destroys a candidate. Some product or celebrity zooms from a total obscurity to viral sensation. What you don't know is that someone is responsible for all of this. It's usually someone like me. I'm a media manipulator in a world where blogs control and distort the news. My job is to control blogs as much as any one person can in today's culture. It's blogs like Gawker, BuzzFeed, the Huffington Post. They drive the media agenda. Now, bloggers are slaves to money, technology, and deadlines. Manipulators wield these levers to shape every single thing you read, everything you see, and everything you watch online and offline. Why am I giving away these secrets? Because I'm tired of a world where blogs take indirect bribes. Marketers help write the news. Reckless journalists spread lies. And no one is accountable for any of it. I'm pulling back the curtain because I don't want anyone else to get blindsided. I'm going to explain exactly how the media really works. What you choose to do with this information is up to you. My friend, if you're not already using arbitrage, what I mean by that is taking a rental property you don't have to be the owner of out of the AST rental market and putting it on Booking.com. You stand to lose out on the largest transfer of wealth that's happening right now in 2019. Because every £1,000 of AST rent is now worth up to £3,000 of rent on Booking.com. If you're not focusing all of your attention on Booking.com right now, you stand to lose. Now you have a massive advantage over the other 2.5 million landlords that are also looking for these secrets. Don't waste that advantage by doing nothing after listening to this talk today. You can join our communities on social media called Ask Ryan OTTO to discuss these episodes and have your questions answered on the next show. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Snapchat. I would love to hear from you and know what you liked about this talk.